Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is the Vulgar Marxist. When I logged on to my computer last night with the intention of watching whatever random thing I could find on YouTube, I honestly had no plans of making a video today. However, certain events brought to my attention by both Sargon of Akkad and the Amazing Atheist necessitate a response, particularly the Amazing Atheist, who apparently has had to change the name of his channel because calling yourself an atheist is no longer acceptable on YouTube. What brought about the alterations to TJKirk's channel was the allegation by major news outlets such as the Wall Street Journal that advertisers such as Pepsi and Coca-Cola were having their advertisements played on channels advocating things like National Socialism and white supremacy. The advertisers, being the panicky little shits that they are, ran screaming and sobbing to YouTube, who, in order to save their revenue stream, had to moderate all political speech on the platform. Now, as tendencies go, they invariably overreach, and not merely atheism, but apparently LGBT has been caught up in the sweep. I have no clue what is going on with socialist and communist channels. I don't even pay attention to them anymore. They've been so overrun with hipsters. In any event, my goal this evening is not to pontificate upon the vagaries of advertising, but rather to examine why the media would have leapt into this fray in the first place. Most by now are fairly aware of the media's effort to railroad Hillary Clinton into the White House last November, the effort to undermine Bernie Sanders. I can't say slander Donald Trump because the man's honestly a pile of garbage, but nonetheless, this effort failed spectacularly. Now, I've already done videos showing it was going to fail. The public genuinely does not like Hillary Clinton. But that aside, the media now needs to figure out why the blazes their almighty and glorious grip on, or rather chokehold on public information is slipping. Which brings us back to YouTube. Most of the debunking, most of the counter-narrative, most of the people dragging the media in front of a screen saying, "Excuse me, this is a steaming pile of molten donkey dung," were from YouTube. You got response video after response video. Every time the media tried to push any kind of narrative at all, people with internet connections and laptops and video cameras going, "Here are the numbers, here are the facts. What are you trying to peddle here? This doesn't remotely match reality." On top of which you have the entire debacle in Germany with New Year's Eve. I think that was last year, year before, which was brought to public attention despite near carte blanche suppression in the mainstream media entirely by dint of websites and YouTube and Twitter and the alternative media reporting upon it, to the infinite embarrassment of the German government and the EU by extension. So really, it was a matter of time before this happened, before the media did something to the platform that is now not merely a thorn in their side, but a thorn in the side of the corporate and government masters whom they serve. Which leaves me somewhat confused why people like the Amazing Atheist would be so shocked when their channels come under attack. I mean, let's think here. You have Fox News, MSNBC, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times have spent tens, hundreds of millions of dollars establishing their networks. Ignore for a second the two dingbats in the chairs and look behind them. Screens, cameras, track lighting, staffs, research, special access to media websites that cost a fortune to maintain. And random dude on YouTube with a desktop, a camera, and a microphone is now giving them a run for their money. And I'm perfectly serious when I say that. These are the Nielsen ratings for February 2017. They're in thousands, so Bill O'Reilly's pulling 3 to 4 million people a night, Rachel Maddow around 2 million. Now, I want you to look at these numbers for a second. Generally, your evening shows are between slightly under 1 million and 1.5 million people in views. Now let's see how that compares to the YouTube channels the media is attacking. Oh dear. TJ, I think I see the problem. You see, you've gotten more views than Bill O'Reilly does on some of your videos. You've gotten more views than nearly all of the media personalities get on some of your videos. Well, they just can't have that now, can they, TJ? But this must be a fluke. This must be an outlier. Let's look somewhere else. Let's see if other channels, surely other channels are nowhere near. Look at that. Look at that. Thunderfoot has more views than most of the media channels get as well. But Thunderfoot is a nuclear physicist. Surely some random no-name lives in her parents' attic. Shoo, what are you doing? Shoo, Erin is blushing. Erin Burnett is blushing right now, Shoo. Erin Burnett gets paid $2 million a year. To get the kind of numbers you are just randomly throwing on YouTube for I don't even know how much. You're making Erin blush here, Shoo. You go to your room right now and think about what you have done, young lady. Well, now that that's out of the way, Blair, Joe Scarborough gets paid $4 million to bring those kind of numbers to MSNBC. Look at that soundstage, Blair. Do you have any idea how much money that soundstage costs? And that, my friends, is the issue. These companies, as I have said before, have paid tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Cameras, boom mics, staffing, printers the size of a freaking bus. But a random nobody on YouTube with $2,000 in equipment is making them look like fools day in and day out. This was very predictable. This was going to happen sooner or later. This has happened every time random tiny little actor stepped on the toes of a major corporation. And I need to thank Crown Tea and Sargon Avocado at this point, because I never would have found this article without them. You see, this is the least of what is coming up the pike. What's coming up the pike is so very much worse. Instead of merely not being able to get advertising on your channel, you're going to be charged a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. I honestly don't know. What does a broadcast license in the Eurozone cost? What does a broadcast license in the United States cost? They're not cheap, I can tell you that. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. That's what's being proposed here, by the way. That anyone who wishes to broadcast on YouTube must get a license from the government to do so. This racket was cooked up back during the early days of radio, when it became glaringly obvious that the number of people who wished to broadcast massively exceeded the available space on which broadcasts could be sent. During the 1950s, or was it the 1940s, television stations, the television networks, were handed to three large companies, ABC, CBS, and NBC, in return for paying ridiculous fees to the government to ensure that only ABC, NBC, and CBS could broadcast on America's airwaves. This became the modern back-scratching between the media and the government, whereby the government ensures that only the existing media companies have any broadcast rights, and the media ensures no one asks uncomfortable or unpleasant questions the government might not want to be asked. But YouTube has hurled all of that into the garbage. Political discussion is now being led by an unruly, raucous, rhetorical bomb-throwing mob who have no interest in what the government wishes them to do, and even less interest in what the media is telling them. Their interest lays in challenging and questioning everything set before them, and this the government cannot tolerate. Certainly the media cannot tolerate it. When TJ says that he is challenging a narrative, or Sargon or anyone else, they are entirely correct, just not the way they think they are. The narrative they are challenging is that Aaron Burnett should be paid $2 million, while Shoe on Head is paid $40,000, maybe $20,000, for getting exactly the same number of eyes to stare at a screen. If both Shoe and Aaron get 500,000 people to look at a program, why should both Shoe and Aaron not be paid the same? This is a very important question. You may do, oh, commie, hippie, womble, oh shush. We all know the myth of meritocracy. We all know that hard work is supposed to lead to success. Certainly, Shoe is working harder than Aaron is. She's doing all her own cutting, her own recording, pre- and post-production. She has no research assistants, no advertising. And yet Aaron is earning, I would guess, 100 times what Shoe is. Why? It is that nasty little question that the government and the media cannot allow to be asked. And it is that nasty little question and the answers which crop up, which are the reason YouTube is now under attack. Shoe and TJ and Thunderfoot serve as a stark and screaming example that the wages individuals receive share no relation to the productivity they have worked to create. That it is not what you do, but what friends you have, who you suck up to, who you cater to and cower before, that determines your wealth and prosperity in our society. And that example must go away. Many have compared YouTube to the Wild West. This is incorrect. The best comparison would be to the invention of the printing press. Prior to the printing press, the written word was the purview of elites. Churches paid huge sums of money to largely illiterate scholars to copy the words in bits of paper so they could pass them around and read them. With the advent of the printing press, not merely did the elites lose control over the ability to read, they more importantly lost control over the ability to decide what would or would not be written down. And it is precisely this control that we are now fighting over. It is not merely that you are challenging the narrative the elites wish to have perpetuated. It is that you have the power to challenge them on equal terms, to get exactly the same number of eyeballs on your channel that they have on their channel. This was what made the Protestant Reformation succeed where a dozen opportunities before it had wretchedly failed. The Protestants could pass around as much literature as the Catholic Church could. They didn't have to be in the town to spread their information. All they had to do was pass through and hand out a few pamphlets. The information would spread itself. This, too, is the battle we are fighting. It is in fact very nearly the same battle, the battle of an entrenched elite who has spun a happy narrative they desire everyone to believe, and those who wish to challenge and question that narrative because they earnestly hold that significant portions of it might be false. And if we are to win this battle, like the Protestants before us, we cannot rely upon the available pulpits in the chapels controlled by our opponents for our victory. We must make our own chapels and our own pulpits. TJ, I have some very bad news for you. You have two choices ahead of you, and yes, one of them involves subway applications. The other is not pleading to YouTube for clemency. It is starting your own YouTube. I am perfectly serious here. You must seize control of your means of production. It is the only way you will win. And I am sure many watching this video will scream, "Kami, kami, 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 shut the fuck up." YouTube will never go toe-to-toe with News Corp, nor are they going to go to bat with any of the other media giants. They are in the same incestuous bed as all of the rest of them. The government created the internet and handed it to large companies to do whatever they like with. They are not going to challenge that paradigm. They are not going to risk the government taking the internet away from them again. So, you cannot rely upon Google to save you, and pleading and begging with them will be no help. You can go apply to Subway. That's an option, not a good one. Or you can collaborate with your fellow YouTube creators, see who has what skills, and with very much luck and great fortitude, found your own video hosting site under the control of people who earnestly desire and believe in free speech. I am not going to lie to you that that's going to be easy. YouTube is going to kick and squeal and scream. The media is going to treat you in pretty much the same way the Catholic Church treated Protestants. And you are going to have to climb in bed with people you probably aren't going to like. I don't know how you feel about John the Other, but he used to be an executive at a software company. I don't know how you feel about Sargon of Akkad, but I'm pretty sure he can program HTML. I don't know how PewDiePie feels about anyone, but we're probably going to need his money. Either we want this badly enough to do something about it, or we don't. Again, I repeat, banging at the doors of YouTube is going to be utterly and completely useless. They are not going to side with us. We don't pay the bills. At least, not in their eyes, we don't. I am loath to offer a project without offering my assistance in contribution. I have no clue how the hell to code HTML. I do know how to modify Medieval 2, so I get the proc rates and the skills I want. I know how to edit a wiki page, and when I took a computer programming aptitude test, I scored 80%. Therefore, if Sargon or anyone else is willing to teach me how to code HTML, I offer whatever time I can spare with a 60 to 70 hour work week to the project of setting up a YouTube alternative run by the content creators and for the content creators on whatever principles those who set it up wish to adopt. I will not insist on anarchist or communist principles in this case. Most people barely understand what they are. I leave you with this final thought. This advertising assault and the proposal in Germany are merely the tip of the iceberg. This will not end with those. They will keep hammering and hammering and hammering at this platform or any platform we adopt, because they know full well the stakes on the table. They have built everything on the idea that Tucker Carlson and Rachel Maddow and Sean Hannity, and by extension Angela Merkel and Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, have great and infinite wisdom we could not possibly ever hope to compare to. This story is false, but they cannot, for a tenth of a fraction of a second, allow anyone to know that.